Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. I appreciate that. And I first want to thank Mark. He's been an incredible liaison for me with the library, so creative and competent, and introduced me to Zoom. This is only my third Zoom talk, so I'm still a little uncomfortable, but I notice a bit of improvement each time in terms of just being more natural. Let us begin with our important topic of today, which is about depression and the pandemic, and how depression and the pandemic has become quite a topic because it's being reported more and more that depression rates have increased 4 times in the US during the pandemic. So in 2017, we had 17 million Americans with levels of depression, and now 17 times 4, 68 million. So it's really important to pay attention to this and to make a response to it. So here's what, let me add, pardon? Oh, okay. I want to say that, as some of you know, I'm very informal. So if you would like to ask questions during the talk, please do so. And Mark will facilitate that, right, Mark?
Yes, and I'm going to mute people for now. You can also type a question into the chat if you'd rather do it that way, or just speak up, but be sure to unmute yourself. And if you can't do that, put some, type something into the chat and I'll see it. And I can,
Thanks, Mark.
let Eileen know.
Okay, I hope so. I like the dialogue throughout the talk. We don't have to wait till the end for Q&A. So at any rate, as we all know, the virus is surging really big time. But the good news is there's a vaccine on the horizon, which is wonderful news. Praise the Lord, faster than I imagined it might be here. But in addition to the surge, let's notice that there are 3 factors that are intensifying the challenges. One is it's cold, it's getting cold. So people that met outside now have a challenge about the cold. It's getting darker and the holidays are next week. And many people find the holidays challenging in regular times, stressful, tension. So what response can we make to this enormous challenge? Some of us, I think, feel too overwhelmed to make any response, to just kind of let it happen. But if we do that, then whatever is hard for you about the pandemic will get more so. So what I want to suggest today is, as our title says, you can rescue yourself from many of the challenges, not all, of course, if you commit to taking care of yourself. And primarily, so for today, I'm going to talk about 2 aspects of the pandemic and you that require attention and action. The 2 would be first, emotional self-care, because obviously the pandemic stirs lots of emotions, all the losses, sadness, grieving, fear. And the second aspect of our rescue will involve embracing habits, daily habits that bring you resiliency, that provide you with psychological armor. So that's my goal today. And my hope is that you, as you listen, will begin to realize that you can create what I call a self-care kit or a rescue kit. So I'm hoping that you will do that, and we'll say more about that later. But what I'm going to suggest to you is really hard work. But as I've said in many of my talks, nothing worthwhile is easy. So this will not be easy, but if you do it, if you commit to it, you'll be keeping yourself safer from the pandemic's inroads, and you'll be growing. So to me, one of the gifts of this challenging time is, in fact, time. We have a lot of time now that we didn't have before. We have a lot of loss, tremendous losses, which I don't have to name to you for every age group, but we have time. So with that time, my hope is that you will commit to taking better care of yourself in ways that I'll be suggesting. But before we get into the hard work, I have good news for you, and that is that you already have everything you need inside of you to do this work. And specifically, what I mean by that is we all have inborn powers, and I'll be naming them. They're inborn, everybody's born with these powers. However, their potential, it's up to us to be aware of them and to plug them in. So here, I've chosen 5 of these inner powers that I think are most relevant to dealing with the pandemic. There are more powers, you're more powerful than you realized. So here are the 5 that I've chosen. The first power is willpower. Now, willpower is often an underused muscle. At least I can confess to mine being underused. But if we want to do this to take care of ourselves, we've got to flex that muscle and recharge it so that we have the will to follow through on what we hope to do to rescue ourselves from drowning in the pandemic's constant waves of loss. It is always challenging. So the second power is the power of awareness, to be aware of what's going on around you. In other words, to pay attention. The ability to pay attention is a power. And when you attend to something, it's a magnet for energy. Whatever you attend to is going to get more energy. So we want to make sure what you're attending to is good for you. The third power is probably the most powerful, and that is the power of thoughts, your thoughts. You have 60,000 thoughts a day. Everything begins with a thought. Everything. So in order to take care of yourself, we need to understand that the thoughts are powerful. We don't want to squander them. I'll be saying more about them later. And they're really the only thing we can totally control, except our words, which come first with the thought, the words, then the behavior. These are the parts of your life that you can still control. And let's note that, because this pandemic has taken so much away from us that we feel like we've lost control. Can anybody relate to that? I hope to hear from some of you. Are you out there? Anybody have a question or comment so far? Okay, I hope you will eventually. No pressure though. Oh, Mark, are you talking? I can't hear you.
Well, I was saying, remember to unmute yourself, which I was forgetting to do myself. So if you ask a question, you have to unmute first.
Okay.
Does everyone know?
In the chat. There's a question in the chat.
Oh, there is one in the chat. From Phyllis, how to deal with other traumatic events out of our control simultaneously with the pandemic.
Whoa. Well, Phyllis, that's a really good question. And the most I can say right now is what I'm going to be suggesting for the pandemic would apply to any challenge in your life. So let's proceed from there. And then towards the end, Phyllis, if you'd like to ask more specifically about other challenges, I'll be glad to try to address them, unless you want to now. Do you want to say more now, Phyllis?
Let me unmute.
No, that's okay. I'll wait. Thank you.
Okay, Phyllis, thanks for the question. And please, let us get back to it towards the end. After you hear what I have in mind for the pandemic, if you want more than that, you ask me again. Is that a deal? Okay. All right. Anyone else? Should I go? I see another question in the chat. No? Okay. Maybe that. Okay. So where was I with the powers? Okay. The willpower, the power of awareness. Let me say more about awareness. There are a lot of people that sleepwalk through life. Awareness isn't automatic. You need to want to be aware of your surroundings and what's going on. So it's a power. And the thoughts, of course. And if you imagine yourself without the power to be aware. I mean, how would you know how to function even? So these are truly personal powers. Mm-hmm. The fourth one I want to talk about is the power of choice. We, as one writer put it, we create our lives through a series of conscious choices. So choice is a power. And as I was writing this, I was remembering about my years at Indiana Women's Prison, where I worked a few times a year for about 8 years with a group of long-termers who really wanted to grow. It was very meaningful. But the women would say to me, Eileen, we really only have one choice left, and that is our attitude. Some of them chose to have the attitude that they were going to make these years worthy of growth because they had college courses, etc. And then others chose the attitude of lamenting, griping, moaning that they were there. So choosing an attitude, choosing anything, is an act of power. And the fifth power I want to underline today is the power of imagination. I think this is an often underused power too, like the willpower. Imagine, we have this incredible ability to close our eyes and image something. So why is it important now? Because hopefully we want to imagine how we're going to change to counter the impact of the pandemic. I was delighted to read a quote from Einstein, who said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Isn't that amazing that he said that? Imagination, because so much can come from that. You can create so much. Okay, so I want to wind down this power section with an example of how to use your power to shape your response to the pandemic. Okay, here's the fact. Approximately 51% of Americans are using more media, social media, all kind of media, during the pandemic than they used to. Of those 51%, half of them are now experiencing levels of depression. So scientifically, I don't know how they do it, but excessive use of media has been linked with more severe depression. So what are the power tools you can plug in for that? The first one would be the power of awareness. Wow, now you're aware of that fact. So you've got to think, am I doing excessive connecting to the media? Maybe that's adding to my blueness. And then the third power would be, well, if you decide, yeah, I'm really overdoing it with this bad news, then you can use your power of choice to reduce the time that you spend on media. Okay, so any questions or comments before I go into the first aspect of rescuing yourself?
Eileen.
Hi, Patty.
Hi.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. I was thinking when you were talking about imagination, that children use their imagination in a really positive way. You know, they play pretend, so they can create a world around them that really isn't the real world. And they're in that Zen moment with that world. And I often have thought, with the pandemic and even other situations that are beyond my control, visualizing, positive things. So I can't go to the beach now, but it doesn't stop me from visualizing the beauty of the beach and the sand and palm trees. Yes. Or whatever it is. So, and of course, my attitude too is I try to be really hopeful that our future will be able to hopefully get back to how we used to live before the pandemic and, be more carefree and be able to go and travel or visit or be with family and friends without fear, you know?
Right,
So
right.
that was my thought. As soon as you talked about
Yes.
imagination, I think about children and how they play and they play pretend, and that might not be their real world, but in their mind, you know, they're happy.
And they're very relaxed as
Yeah.
they're doing it, as you put it, a Zen moment. Well, and I like what you do, Patty, imagining the beach. That's a wonderful thing to fill your mind with, especially if you need to shift the focus from some news that's difficult. We'll be talking more about that later, but thank you for sharing that. You mentioned the word fear, and that segues into our next topic, which is emotional self-care as you rescue yourself from the challenges of the pandemic. So the two emotions we'll look at today are fear and the grieving, which is sorrow primarily from all the losses, loss after loss, right? So before I talk about that, I'm going to pause for a minute and be quiet and ask you each to close your eyes and go within and ask yourself about your own emotional state vis-a-vis the pandemic challenges, or whatever your emotional state is. They might be mixed with other challenges in your life. So I'm going to be quiet and go within, because it's really important to know, for each one to know, how is this impacting me? We know it's a collective trauma. It impacts everyone, just like 9/11 did. Everyone is impacted, but this one also is a personal trauma. It impacts each of us in different ways. And so I'm asking you to go within and I won't ask you to share this, but I hope you'll be using it later. Go within and examine what you sense is your emotional state vis-a-vis the pandemic. And I will be quiet for 1 minute. Okay, I think that's about a minute. So I'm asking you, whatever you got in touch with, it is now in your consciousness. And I'm encouraging you now to listen actively. And what does listen actively really mean? It means that you're listening because you want to see what might apply to your life. It's very different than listening to a college class where you have a certain detachment. You want to get an A, but you're not personally involved in the material. So I encourage you to do active listening as we continue. Okay, so here are some basic guidelines for dealing with both emotions, fear and grieving, sorrow. And then I'm going to look at each one specifically. Okay, so basic guidelines for emotional self-care are these. First, what we just did, be aware of what you're feeling. Be in touch with your feelings. This is hard for many people because many people in childhood get messages that make them want to run from their emotions. Get a few examples I've heard in my counseling office years for 30 years would be something like this. So for anger, they might have heard, oh, come on, little nice girls don't get angry. Or for sadness, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. These are direct quotes from parents who didn't realize the power of their impact on the little ones. For fear, it would often be big boys aren't afraid of anything. There's nothing to be afraid of. So if you know that you have a challenge about feeling your feelings and being in touch with them, then you'll have a little extra work to do to figure out, how do I surface those feelings? one of the ways is to intend to surface them. Give them permission to come up, because you're an adult now. You can take care of the emotions. See, chances are the parents that give these messages were overwhelmed in various ways, and they didn't want to deal with them. So they basically said, don't go there with your emotions. It's too much trouble. But now your emotions, well, emotions are very valuable. They give us clues and signals to what's going on. But we have to discern that with our head. So I often say the best way of knowing something is to use your head and your heart to check. We often think of the feelings in the heart. So at any rate, so the first step is, are you in touch with your emotions? If not, make it an intention to do so. And there's something I'll be talking about later that would help you in this regard. Okay, the next guideline is name the emotion. Name it as specifically as you can, because it's really hard to change something, almost impossible, if you leave it fuzzy or not clear. So name the emotion. And then next, you may have heard this phrase, name, claim, and tame. That's what we're doing now, your emotions. So the next one is claim. What does that mean, claim your emotions? Well, tell yourself, this is mine. I own this. I'm responsible for this emotion. Now, again, that can be hard for people because some people have the misconception that people can make them feel things. That is not accurate. You know, so often he made me angry. But the reality is no one can make you feel anything. You had a feeling inside of you, or the potential for that, and what he or she did triggered it. But it's your responsibility to deal with it. Simply saying it's his fault, he triggered it. No, that doesn't work. It's not healthy. So that's what it means by claiming it. And then next, taming it. Well, how do we tame our emotion? Well, there's a foolproof way to do it, and it's called talking about it. You need to be willing to talk, hopefully, to a trusted friend. This comes up in other talks I give, but it's very relevant in many life situations that you have a trusted friend who will listen to you with respect and not try to fix what you're telling him or her and not try to analyze it. What you want them to do is simply listen, to try to understand. And when you have a listener like that, it validates you and your feelings. So I hope you each have a friend like that, and I hope you are a friend like that. Where was I? Oh, I wanted to, along those lines, talk about it while you're talking. Often the emotions come up through talking. I used to have a friend who said, I don't know what I'm feeling till I talk about it. So for her, telling the story evoked the emotions. So it's really important to also express the emotion. So in addition to the story around it. So if you get in touch with you're very sad, then you say, wow, that really stirs the sadness in me. And maybe you'll cry. Tears are so important and valuable. But a lot of times we don't honor them. We get embarrassed by them. But they're very valuable. They cleanse the wound. They reveal your deepest truths. I mean, there's even a line in scripture about the Lord collecting your tears in a bottle. So if you grew up with admonition that don't cry, I hope you'll unlearn that. Whatever is learned can be unlearned. Tears are valuable. Let yours flow. And sometimes a client would say to me, Eileen, I'm afraid to cry. I'm afraid I'll never, ever stop. Well, I want to promise you that's never happened. You'll be able to stop. If you don't have a friend like this, you can journal it, but it won't be the same as having a witness. So then ask yourself, do you want to look for a clergy person or a trusted professional? But try to have a witness. And you know, this part of the journey reminds me what Mr. Rogers said often. I forget if he said it in the movie, but I used to watch all the shows with my kids, loved it, fell in love with them even. And he always said, whatever is mentionable is manageable. Mentionable, you're going to talk about it, it becomes more manageable. In fact, stay connected, those two words, stay connected, just the act of staying connected helps you to manage depression and anxiety. It's not enough, but hey, if you can stay connected, you're helping yourself. Okay, let's see. Any questions before I go into fear and grieving a little? Anybody? Okay, I shall proceed. So let's look at fear. The fear about COVID is different than most fears because it signals danger. That's the purpose of healthy fear, to signal danger. So we want to pay attention to that. The fear is helping us out. So what do we do when we have a fear that's real? Most fears aren't indicative of something dangerous. Let me use myself as an example. I confess that I was afraid to learn Zoom. Now, when I look at that, why was I afraid to learn Zoom? I thought, oh, talking into a screen instead of seeing people, I won't be able to be my best self. I told myself that. And so what did I do? The fear was just fear of failure. Fear, not just, that's important to notice. Fear of failure isn't dangerous, or fear of feeling inadequate. So whenever you have a fear, the first thing you want to ask yourself, is it grounded in reality? Is it a danger? Or is it about me and my ego and my self-image? So the fear, back to the COVID fear. So what do we want to do with that very real fear? The first thing we want to do is face it directly. And again, a lot of people resist that. If we don't face it directly, we can't deal with it thoroughly. So we face it, just facing it won't make it go away, but then it reduces the strength of the fear. It won't get in your way as much as if you don't face it. If you don't face it, it goes underground. And any feeling that goes underground, something as strong as fear, it's like you're holding a beach ball under the water. Can you picture that? It's how much energy it takes you to hold a beach ball under the water. And then it suddenly might come up. So it's not a good idea not to face it. Okay, so face it. And then the next step is do everything you can about it, which we know what the protocol is, right? Masks, social distancing, careful of any groups. So we do everything. We make sure we stay healthy, get our flu shot. We do everything we can do. And then here's the hard part. We have to let go then. You don't have to, but if you don't, then you're camping out in your fear. You're putting your tent up in fear. And that'll make the pandemic incredibly more challenging and full of suffering. Now, a fear like the pandemic that keeps going on and on is a challenging fear. So what I want to suggest to you is it will come back, but don't give it a home. Realize you've done all you can do and shift the focus, or give it to God, give it to your creator, give it to your higher power, invoke prayer. I'm always cautious. When I talk at churches, which I did on Sunday, I can use spiritual and psychological insights. But when I'm here at the library, I realize it's a different audience, and I want to respect that. There's a gamut of believing. So I won't say a lot about that, but here's a time to say something, because fear can be like a plague. If you can't let go of it and you're a prayer, I would urge you to ask for help. Or again, talk to a professional or a friend about it, because it's very debilitating. So let's see where I am on that. So when we do this, when we feel the fear, we keep countering it, we give it to God, we're creating emotional endurance. This is such an ongoing challenge that we need endurance. As somebody wrote, we have to be like endurance athletes. We have to build up our endurance. It isn't a one-time only thing. It isn't a one-time only race. The race changes every day, maybe depending on the news. But again, there are measures you can take that will give you psychological armor for doing it and the ability to still enjoy life. So, yes, Patty?
I have a comment. So one thing that really stands out for me in what you said is, one, the duration of this pandemic. It's going on far longer than any of us initially thought it would. I know in my mind, in March, I thought, oh, well, maybe by July, things will be better. Wishful thinking. But, when you said we have, that fear can come over you, and then we have to do something positive with it. And so the thing that stands out for me is that because it's this fear, every day, like I stopped listening to the news every day because I didn't want to hear the numbers every day.
Good move.
It was like it was controlling me. Yes. And I just thought, I'm really powerless over those numbers. My power only lies in what I can do, which is what you said. Social distance, wear your mask, wash your hands, all of that. So, but for me, the big thing is just becoming aware that fear does tend to want to surface frequently.
Yes.
And so, and I might, if I'm not aware of it, I might be feeling a little bit down that day. I might be feeling a little sluggish. I just might not be functioning maybe as well as I normally could. But I have found that when I know that that's coming over me, it's like I'm vigilant about it,
Good. Excellent.
When I know, when I get that awareness, I'm starting to feel a little bit nervous about that. I just have to, like you said, draft, where I have a project, or I call a friend, reach out to somebody, and maybe not even talk about it. Maybe not even continue to talk about it, because for me, that's
yes.
So
excellent.
But
that's a great.
The awareness was key for me. When you said
the power of right. Now, Patty, you made a lot of good points. The one that I want to key in on is, and sometimes not even talk about it. That is so true. We have to talk about it enough, but then we have to watch that we don't talk about it too much. That when it comes up again, we have to balance it. Like, whoops, I know what this is. Ask yourself, do I need to express it directly to a person, or do I just need to shift the focus to a more nourishing frame of reference? We'll be talking about some ideas for what do you shift to in a little while. So thank you for your comments, Patty. Anyone else?
Nope.
Okay, shall I continue? So let's see. I was finishing with fear, right? And saying that you can develop emotional endurance. Okay, so now we're going to go to the losses. What emotion the losses bring, which is very much grief. And grief is usually about sadness, although it has other stages than sadness. So grief is the normal human reaction to the loss of a person, place, or thing. So it's often thought that grief is just when you lose a person. That's probably the most intense if you love that person. But the loss of a place, especially now, a place to go to work, place even earthier things, a place to get your hair cut, a place to go with friends and sit around a while and gab. So there are layers and layers of losses. And let's just be aware of them, because if we're not aware of them, they have more impact. So our task then, you anticipated this line, Patty, is to balance experiencing the sorrow, but not camping out there. So I love to quote King Lear when I'm talking about grief, because Shakespeare was so wise and he is so succinct, much more succinct than I am. But in King Lear at some point, I forget which character says it, if it's the king or not, give sorrow words. The grief which does not speak whispers to the overwrought heart and bids it break. Isn't that amazing? Give sorrow words. There's such guidance there. It's twofold guidance. Give sorrow words, because it gets it out of your body and it makes it more manageable. But if you don't do it, remember what Shakespeare said, your heart could break. In medieval times, that kind of a broken heart was a certifiable cause of death. So back then they realized, which some of us still don't realize, that if you have an emotion and you're not expressing it and it's staying in your body, you're hurting your body, because each emotion has a physical component. For example, fear can flutter in your stomach. Your heart could beat real fast when you're angry. So if you don't express that emotion, that physical energy stays in your body. And it is now known, it used to be a new age concept, oh, the feelings can impact the body. Now it's scientific. If you go to Johns Hopkins, the Mayo Clinic websites, you will read that unexpressed feelings will hurt your body. They can up your blood pressure, lower your immune system, cause heart problems, make you tired all the time. So there are so many reasons to be willing to put words to your inner, especially your inner experience. So let's see where I'm going next. We're going to leave the emotional self-care and move into embracing habits which build resiliency. Embracing daily habits which give you psychological armor for the pandemic and any time. Life is difficult even without a pandemic. As the book that changed my life, I've mentioned it in other talks, The Road Less Traveled, by psychiatrist M. Scott Peck, he opens it with, life is difficult. That's the opening of the book. And I remember saying, wow, he really gets it. So life is difficult even without a pandemic. So we need to take exquisite care of ourselves. We are worthy. We were born beloved children of God. We're intrinsically valuable. We didn't have to earn it. If you don't believe that, that means you learned something false as you were growing up. We won't get into that now. But try to suspend your disbelief and believe that you are valuable and you are worthy to take care of yourself in the ways we've been talking about. Okay, so the second level of self-care, the self-care kit I'm imagining for you, has two compartments: emotional self-care and the habits that form resiliency. Of course, those two compartments will overlap, because the more you do these habits, the stronger you're going to get to handle the emotions. So the two aspects interact. Okay, before I start, anybody question, comment? Okay, I'll continue. So Aristotle wisely said, we become what we habitually do. We become what we habitually do. So I'm going to ask you again to pause for a minute. I'll be quiet for a minute and look within and try to get in touch with your usual daily habits, okay? Not all of them, but your typical daily habits. Okay, I'm going to stop. Please go within. Okay, I think that was about a minute. And I realize that's not enough. And I'm hoping that tonight or sometime tomorrow, you might go within again and learn even more. Okay, so for now, we're going to look at some daily habits that will strengthen you. And as I was getting ready for this part, I thought about my old friend, Arnold Zigarelli. Some of you will know his name. He's like a quasi-celebrity in Pittsburgh, or he was. I think he's still with us, but I don't think he's practicing his profession, which is creating amazing artistry with hair. But Arnold was also a self-help lover of self-help books. And he even collected quotes and self-published a book. But what I want to share with you today is so relevant. He loved this. 10 two-letter words that can change your life. 10 two-letter words that can change your life. Does anybody out there know what that is? Okay. Well, here it is. I didn't either. He quizzes people. Eileen, do you know what they are? No, I can't even imagine 10 two-letter words that are powerful. But here they are. If it is to be, comma, it is up to me.
Mhm.
Isn't that powerful? Okay, I'm going to repeat it. Am I the only one enthused about this? I know, thank you, Patty. If it is to be, it is up to me. There's so much wisdom in that. And that's what we're talking about. If I am going to not only cope with the pandemic, but transcend its challenges and grow, I'm the only one that can do that for me. And the pandemic is a good place to pause and remember, you are your main resource. You, your body, your soul, your identity, you are a resource for you. A lot of times we don't think that way. And a lot of times with all the other resources that are available, we have a lot of distraction, but those are gone now. So it is a good time to focus on that. Okay, so this section is about 8 habits that will strengthen you. And the first one is believe it's possible that you can do this, because humans act in accordance with their beliefs. So if you think that this for you, you can't believe this, then you won't. As Henry Ford said, if you think you can, if you think you cannot, you're right. Because people act in accordance with their beliefs. So my hope for you is that you believe it's possible. And if you don't, suspend your disbelief. You are worth it. to make this effort, and you have competency. You can do this, but it does take work, and it does take an intention and a commitment. So the second habit is breathe. Breathe. I just learned that I didn't know this before, but if you breathe deeply for several minutes, it calms your mind. So breathe deep when you're feeling unsettled. Take a deep breath, sit down, take 5 or 10 deep breaths, let it out slowly, and you'll become calmer. So along with this breathe, I want to add bodily self-care. Take care of your body during the pandemic. Exercise, good food. I have been remiss in that regard. I will confess. I'm eating too many potato chips. So we want to take really good care of our bodies. And the third habit is beware of negative self-talk. Remember the 60,000 thoughts a day? We talk to ourselves, don't we, with our thoughts? So if your thoughts are negative, you're going to pull yourself down, because thoughts are so powerful. They impact your mood. When I was growing up, I was very shy and insecure. And I used to tell myself I wasn't okay, something was wrong with me, but that was my self-talk. And so what did it do? Changed my behavior. I became very shy. I'm hiding out so they don't notice me. It all began with a thought. So please don't underestimate the power of your 60,000 a day. Along the lines of negative self-talk, I want to say a word or two about worry, because worry is epidemic in our world even before the pandemic. It's so common that people think it's okay or that it's normal. It was their parents did it and they learned it as a lifestyle. If that applies to you, I encourage you to unlearn it. Worry is futile. Nothing gets done. Some people misinterpret it as a sign of caring. Well, aren't you worried about that? Well, no. Well, that means you don't care. No. That means I've done what I can do about that situation. I'm going to shift the focus. So be aware, in case you're a worrier, that it's a drain. It's a drain on your energy and your mood, your spirit. Yes, Patty?
I was just going to say that my mom was a worrier, and I felt like I was picking that up. And I remember somebody sharing with me many years ago that maybe I could substitute I'm worried about it with I'm concerned about it. And it just puts a little bit of a different slant. So I can still be concerned about something, but I don't have to get into that full-fledged worrying mode, which I saw my mom do. She would ruminate. She could wring her hands about something. She wasn't even aware. And I didn't want to carry that, with me.
Good for you. I like your use of the word concern, because it has a different connotation. Yes, I'm concerned, but then you have to be careful that you don't stay stuck too much even on the concern. You do what you can, and then you let go.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Okay, thanks, Patty. Did I hear another voice?
Yes, I said that's a great idea to exchange worry for concern, because of course my mother was a big worrier too. And even though I have a positive attitude, I am also a worrier. And some of my friends think that's incompatible, but yet it's the way, it's the way I am. So I do try often with my children when I worry about them, because of course they're senior citizens now. So I do sometimes change worry to use the word concern. And I just didn't realize until you said it, Patty, that was a good idea. But I try to do that.
Well, what is your name?
My name is Gladys Bernstein.
Oh, hi, Gladys.
Hi.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
What I find myself wondering is you make a good point. It's possible, as you said, to be very positive, and yet you have an element in you that still worries, right? Is that what
Yes.
But it sounds, you convey a positive energy. I'm wondering if you'd consider letting go of the worry and let all that positiveness take over. What do you think?
I will try. I will try. I'm 90 years old.
Oh my goodness, you look great. You're so pretty. And you're smiling. You are. You're so pretty, Gladys.
Thank you.
Believe it. Believe it.
And I do miss living in Monroeville. And I have a question that someone might answer. When we moved away in 1979, there were 33,000 people living in Monroeville. How many are living in Monroeville today? Does anybody know? I mean, that's not on the subject, but it came to my mind while I was listening to you.
No, I have no idea. Maybe Mark knows. No, Mark? Maybe he's,
okay, well,
I think it's about
all those things.
Wait, he's answering, Gladys.
Yeah,
What, Mark?
I'm going to look that up real quick.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Because I think it's about 30,000, maybe 31. No,
So it's fewer now, huh?
Actually fewer. It's down to 28,000 something.
Okay. Thanks, Mark, for the research, quick research. And thank you, Gladys. Keep smiling. Gladys's smile reminds me of a quote that I love from Mother Teresa. She said, peace begins with a smile, and smile at 5 people today, whether you feel like it or not. So isn't that, and that's easy. Why don't we all smile at each other? That'll be more than 5 people, right? Ruth, are you smiling? Yes, Ruth is smiling.
I wanted to say something too. I want to make a comment.
Good.
When you were talking about breathing,
yes,
I just finished a course on stress reduction with a retired UPMC physician, and he did breathing exercises with us as part of the class. But he warned us, if you're really doing deep breathing, not to do more than 5 breaths in a row because you'll pass out.
Oh, wow.
So
I didn't know that. Well, thank you, Ruth.
Sure.
That's important information. Thank you so much. See, we all learn from each other.
That's interesting. You know, this Zoom has really helped because I've been totally isolating because I have a lot of health conditions since March 13th. And when we started with Zoom, and you see people, you talked about smiling. Well, when you're totally alone, you don't really have a tendency to smile because you would be an idiot just smiling at yourself. But with Zoom, when you're seeing people and having Zoom virtual dinners together, you are smiling. And that really does help.
Good, Gladys. I'm delighted to hear that. Okay, thank you for the comments.
But it only occurred to me to Zoom with the Monroeville Library recently because I'm not in Monroeville anymore. And I'm so annoyed with myself that I didn't start doing it sooner. So my first Zoom with you was last Friday, and I recognized some of you. And so I don't see any faces from when I lived there, but it's still good to see Monroeville faces.
That's how I feel too, Gladys, because I miss being at the library in person. It's great that you discovered it. I'll tell you what, this is a good chance for me to thank Mark again. He does such a great job as the head adult librarian of keeping connections going at the library. Not all libraries are doing that. So Mark is special. He doesn't like me to say too much, but I can't help it because he's
this is Sue Schneider, and I say, yes, Mark, you are terrific.
Great, Sue. Thank you for joining my voice, adding to my voice. Thank you, Sue.
And I'll give a plug. Another way to relax and cope is to do Zentangle.
Oh, I've heard of that. Are you the teacher?
I'm the teacher, and there will be a class this evening. So.
Oh, wow. I'd like to take it sometime.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue.
Bye.
Thank you.
If you
Sue?
go to,
Okay.
if you go to the
I have a
library
question for
website,
Sue.
monroevillelibrary.org, you'll see Sue's Zentangle class listed, and you can sign up there and connect to that. It's twice a month,
Great.
first and third Wednesdays.
Thank you.
I was going to say, Sue, I've signed up for that class. I'm going to try to attend it for the first time tonight, the Zentangle. I'm intrigued by it.
Oh, good, good.
And,
Connections.
You're most welcome.
I wanted to add to what Gladys said too, because, you know, Zoom has really helped me too, because prior to this, I was immunocompromised and I wasn't going out and about as much as I would like to. I'm a very people-oriented person. And this has been great. I so appreciate these talks and all the things that the library is offering, because it's a way to connect. Like you said, before,
Absolutely.
to stay
Connect.
connected.
Stay
people.
connected.
And
Yes.
it's a way not to feel isolated, even when you're in your own home. So, I mean, I'm hoping that, you know, when things do improve with the pandemic, that this might still be offered as an option for those of us that aren't able to get out, you know, as much as we would like. So I
Good
hope
idea for
that'll be.
Mark to think about. Yes. Thanks, Patty. Well, I have a couple more habits, and then
Eileen,
oh, Mark.
there is
Yes.
there is a question in the chat from
Okay.
Phyllis. The question is whether you call it worry or concern, what are the tools not to dwell?
Sure. The tool, Phyllis, thanks for your question. You're right. It doesn't matter what you name it, but if it's weighing you down, the tools are you become aware, this isn't a good idea. Then you choose to shift the focus to something else. And I'm about to give you a great idea for shifting the focus. So your timing is good, Phyllis. So again, it's a matter of aware and say no. Another way to look at it, Phyllis, is the ABCs of thought stopping. Aware, A. B, block it. It's not healthy. C, change the thought. Does that help, Phyllis?
I can get off on mute here.
Oh, Phyllis, are you the yoga teacher? Oh, okay. I thought she was. Well.
Let me try to get Phyllis unmuted. I think she was
okay. Oh, that's right. You gave me the question, Mark, through the chat. Yeah.
And then she tried to follow
You
up.
started to talk. Yeah.
She's still muted for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know why. She started to talk and then suddenly she was muted again.
Right.
Okay, I think she's unmuted. Phyllis, I think you're unmuted now.
Phyllis?
I'm
Well,
trying.
let's try.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. No, I think you said A is for aware, B is block, and C is change. That's what I wanted you to repeat. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Change the focus.
Thank you.
And okay, I'm going to continue with the habits we're winding down, and then I want to make an announcement at the end, Phyllis, that may interest you. So I hope you can stay with us.
Yes,
okay,
thank you.
So shift the focus from the negativity. A good way to do it is gratitude. That was my first talk on Zoom, the therapeutic impact of gratitude. Because like smiling, it's another one, it's the only other thing that is so worthwhile, but it's easy. It's easy to express gratitude, right, folks? Anybody that does it? What I said in the talk was a lot, but I left the listeners with, don't get out of bed in the morning until you've expressed 3 reasons that you're thankful. And then that does a lot. It sets the tone for the day, because a lot of times we wake up anxious because at night our defenses are down and the fears come up. So do try this. These are very simple things. Then at night, before you go to bed, 3 more. When you do this as a habit, then during the day, you have a positive lens. You're looking for things that you're going to be grateful for. So you tend to become more positive if you express gratitude. It's a powerful concept. As Meister Eckhart, a medieval philosopher, said, if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, that is enough. So I encourage you to embrace the practice of gratitude tonight. Okay, now three more habits. Then we'll see if other people want to talk. The next one is be kind. If there was ever a time we needed more kindness, it's now. As Philo of ancient Greece knew way back then, he said, be kind to everyone you meet, because everyone you meet is fighting a great battle. And isn't that, there's so much truth in that we don't know what people are struggling with. Life is difficult. And a lot of times people are struggling. And if we act kindly towards them, it can make a difference. Now, I want to give you a really great example of pandemic kindness that came to my attention this morning. A friend of one of my sisters, I'm blessed to have 3 sisters and we're all friendly. It's a wonderful blessing. But one of my sisters sent out a text saying, would you please send a card to this person because she's going to have a special birthday soon. And because of the pandemic, there can't be a party, which you would really have for this birthday. And so she's asking for everybody that's on her list to send this woman a card, even though we don't know her. But isn't that a wonderful way to express kindness? So let's look at our habits and make sure we're including some acts of kindness. It can be a phone call, a text to somebody that you know is lonely, a card. So as Martin Luther King said, one of the most important question you have to ask yourself is, what are you doing for others? Now, in this time, there's a lot that we cannot do for others because of our limited access to the outside world, but there's always a way to be kind. Okay, then 2 more habits. Be creative. Always be creative. It's a high gift. It's the high, we were created by a creator and we have inherent creativity in us. We all have it. So especially during the pandemic, have you been reading about all the people that are becoming cooks and making bread? That's one way to be creative. There are so many ways, right? 2 of my best friends are both master gardeners. So their way, wow, they create beauty, and so many people benefit from the beauty they create. So ask yourself, am I expressing my creativity or not? If so, if not, hey, Sue's doing hers with Zentangle, right, Sue? That's creative. And Patty will be joining the class, so she's going to be creative. So we have all kinds of opportunities for creativity. And when I wrote this, it reminded me, let me see how our time is. Oh dear, it's after 3:30. Well, I'll wind down. The final habit I want to encourage you to practice is to be in the present moment. This is very challenging. I've been trying for years. I'm still not there, but I aspire to it. All actual living takes place in the present moment. But so often, there's 60,000 thoughts. We go pasteurizing, reviewing the past, maybe too many times. We have to review it sometime, especially if it would be therapeutic to do so. And a lot of times we're futurizing. John Lennon was known to say, most people spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they do their whole lives. So be careful about going into the future too much. Of course, we have to plan somewhat. So be here now. That's where the living is. And all the more, we know more than ever that tomorrow is not promised. Isn't that true? with all the deaths that are occurring. So let us be here now and live fully in the moment. Okay, so let me see. I'm ready to wind down, but I want to see if we have any discussion before I give you my last thoughts.
Eileen, I was going to ask, would you mind just quickly reviewing the 8 habits?
Oh, thank you, Patty. I meant to do that. Thank you, thank you. Okay, the 8 habits that will build resiliency are: believe it's possible. Breathe a few deep breaths and take care of your body well. 3, beware of negative self-talk and worry. 4, express gratitude. 5, be kind. Be kind. In fact, the Dalai Lama once wrote that loving kindness is one of the names of God. I thought that was very stirring. Be creative and be in the present moment. And I want to say that, remember, I'm asking you to do these things habitually. If you practice these, choose a couple of them maybe, intend to practice them every day for 3 weeks, and then they're yours. Then they come naturally. That's been written about. It takes 3 weeks to embed the habit in your frame of reference. Now, as it turns out, we are going to meet again in 3 weeks, right, Mark? On December 9th. We have a date here, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, December 9th is 3 weeks from today. So I want to issue you a loving challenge to commit to a couple habits for 3 whole weeks. And when we come back, even though that isn't our topic, I will open it up with anybody that wants to give us a report on their habits from today's topic. And while I'm at it, I want to name the topic. Mark, I didn't clear this with you, but I'm hoping you're okay with it. I want to keep my next few talks pandemic related, pandemic protection, an umbrella for you to stay safer under. So the next talk I'd like to do, Mark, is change your thoughts, change your life. Because what I've said here today is not enough about the thoughts. I've done it at the library, Mark, quite a while ago. Are you okay with that, Mark?
That's fine, yeah.
Change your thoughts, change your life on December 9th. Okay, let me see what else I want to say to you by way of goodbye. Well, as I implied before, I derive a lot of strength from my own spirituality, and I'm a prayer warrior, so to speak. I also derive a lot of strength from some scriptures, and I'm just going to share one with you that I think is so powerful. It's from 2 Timothy 1:7, chapter 1, verse 7. I love this. For God did not give us the spirit of fear or timidity, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Imagine that. No fear, power, the personal power we talked about today, love, which is a whole topic we could do a talk on, what love really is, and then the sound mind for your thinking and taking care of yourself and not giving negativity a home in your precious mind. So I believe that's it. Wait, one more thing. I'm urging you to create an action plan for yourself using what you've heard today, an action plan for self-rescue. Maybe put it in a little box even. And then maybe you want to share some when we meet again. Now, Phyllis, I'm aware that I said I'd get back to you about your question. Remember your question?
Yes. Yes.
Would you like? Yes.
We have another question in the chat as well about the 8 habits. Could you state those again, just briefly?
Could I restate the 8 habits?
Mhm.
Yes, and then we'll see what Phyllis has on her
Okay.
mind, okay?
Okay.
The habits are, let me find the right page, the habits. Believe that self-rescue is possible. Yes, you can do this. Breathe deeply and take care of your body. Self-care. Beware of negative self-talk and beware of worry. They're under one habit there. Negative self-talk and worry. Be grateful and express gratitude. Have an attitude of gratitude. Be kind to everyone you meet. Be creative, express your creativity, and be in the present moment. As one writer puts it, the holy now. In fact, it reminds me that my longtime mentor, Sister Rita Flaherty, I was blessed to be part of her life when she was dying. And the last thing she said to me, not the last thing, but she wanted very much to give me one of her favorite books. And the book was called Practicing the Sacrament of the Present Moment. In other words, this writer thought so much about it that he called it a sacrament. It's big. It's where you're alive now. We're together, we're present. We must stay in the present moment to live fully. So, okay, Phyllis, that was it for the 8. Phyllis, do you want to say anything or ask?
Well, no, it's all very helpful. Thank you. And I just have to just make a practice out of it. When I start worrying and I know I can't control anymore, I just need to practice more. Shift my focus, do whatever.
Shift the focus, Phyllis, right. Look at beauty, take a walk if you can. Nature is very nourishing.
I do.
Okay, Phyllis.
I do that.
Well, given your issue, I really hope you'll join us on December 9th, because I think what you learned there would be helpful. Okay, good.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for being here. And Mark, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen.
You're most welcome. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm getting more comfortable with Zoom. Okay.
This was absolutely wonderful, Eileen. All the information is so good. And I'm glad you gave us a little assignment to do the action plan, because I will say I can listen and I'll take some notes, but I've told myself, I made a commitment. I'm going to read over this. I really am going to do a little action plan for me. I'm going to do it because I know it's going to help. So thank you.
Great, Patty. Thank you for that vote of confidence in the action plan. I hope you'll all consider it. Okay, bye. Bye, everyone. Thanks again, Mark.